Hey guys, Dina here. Thanks for joining me today. This is actually my first video on my new channel, so I really appreciate you being here. Today I'm going to feature the summer garden stamp set that I illustrated for Gina K Designs. Some of you were asking me how I colored this little mouse. It is such a versatile stamp set that you will definitely have so much fun using it alone or with other sets. So I'm going to stamp the little mouse and the little tree branch bench on some marker paper. You don't have to use marker paper, but I enjoy using marker paper because the Copic markers that I use, the alcohol markers, blend so easily. Now the dye ink that Gina has is perfect for using with alcohol markers because it won't bleed unless you oversaturate, so you have to be careful. So while I'm drying my little mouse and the bench, I'm going to stamp a few little other elements that I'm going to incorporate in my card. And I'm stamping these on the same marker paper as well. So here I'm stamping the little cobblestone images. I first did it with a darker ink and I did not like it. So I'm going to restamp it again with a lighter ink that I like much better. I believe it's called Sandy Beach, but I'll leave all the supplies that I use down in the description below. And now I'm going to do some embossing. I'm using Gina K's Tapestry embossing folder. I'm just going to spritz it a little bit because I don't want my cardstock to crack. I tend to like a deeper image, and with the intracut you can actually change your level of impression, which is so helpful. So here I am just rolling it through the intracut to get my impression, and I love this design. It's going to work so well with this card. You see how I got a nice deep impression here, and the paper did not tear at all. So now I want to ink blend a little bit. I put my little sticky gel mat on top of my Misty just to hold it down, and I'm going to be ink blending the embossed piece of cardstock that I pre-cut. You want to pre-cut it before you emboss it, because if you don't, you're going to flatten your image. And that can look good too if that's the look you're going for, but I like to have a nice deep image for this one. So I've got a little bit of pink I'm going around the edges. I'm going to do the upper portion, and then I'm turning it so I can get an equal amount on the other side. I got a little heavy-handed with the ink blending on my glass mat. I didn't realize that I was so aggressive when I'm ink blending. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. I want some sunshine in there. I love creating little scenes when I'm making cards. So I want to add like little sunshine in the background. So I'm going to add some yellow. I believe it's sweet corn. I'm going to add some sweet corn to the center of my card. I'm still working on the upper portion of my panel. And I'm lightly ink blending, and I don't want it to be very intense. Here it is. Okay, so now for the coloring. I'm going to use my Copic markers, and this is a matter of preference. There's lots of discussions about how to do this, but I prefer to lay color down first. I lay a light base color down, and then I build my color from there. I just find it better for me and the look that I like to not do my darks first. If I did my darks first, my images come out too dark, and that is just not my style. So I lay my base color down. It's so much easier to build up the color. It's not so easy to take off color. So I will be laying in my very lightest color right now, and I know that some of you are a little intimidated to color this little mouse, but I'm going to show you that you don't really have to add a lot of coloring. I enjoy coloring. It's very relaxing to me. It's very peaceful. I have a few little tiny, very, very barky dogs. So when I want to color, I will just turn on some very soothing music, and it works like a charm. They wind up taking a nap and I can color peacefully. So now I'm laying in my second color, and I'm going to just be adding some flicks. These are long flicks. You can do shorter ones, but I'm going to add some longer flicks to kind of hint around to the hair that I want to bring out. And also I'm building some shadow very lightly. She's going to be a little white mouse, so I don't want to add a whole lot of color to her. As you can see, I've only gone around certain parts of her face and her body. And now I'm coming in with my darker color. I usually use 3 colors to build up my layers. And here I'm going to pull out the hair even more. So they're just gentle flicks. And you always want to follow the line of the image. It just looks more natural, and you won't have to fight with streaks that way. A little more shadow just to make her pop. I'm going to color her again on regular cardstock for you so you can see the difference between marker paper and regular cardstock. The thing I love about the marker paper is that it helps get a really good blend. So here I am going back in again with my lightest color, and I'm just slightly blending some of the streaks that are there. I don't always want there to be streaks. Like in some cases you can see on her forehead I am pulling out her hair, and I do want that there, so I won't blend that out to lose that. But anyway, on the regular cardstock you will get a different look, but it's equally as beautiful. So don't feel like you have to go out and get different paper. It's definitely helpful. Paper definitely makes a difference. But if you're just starting out coloring, or you just don't have the marker paper available, I know it's a little pricey, play around with the cardstock and just see what works for you. Okay, now I'm going to come in with some pinks. I'm going to work on her ears and her little cheeks. And again, I'm not coloring the entire ear here. I'm just hinting around to some color. And the fun thing about this image is you can color as much of her as you want or as little as you want. It depends. Like, she's a lighter color mouse for me. I have done a few others that were even lighter than this one, and I've done one that was even darker. So you can color as much as you want or as little as you want. She doesn't have to be intimidating. She just has to make you happy. Now also, you don't even have to use alcohol markers. You can use colored pencils and some Gamsol. That is also wonderful to get a good blend in, and works very well on marker paper and works very well on cardstock. Gina has several videos showing how she does that. I'll try to put one here too eventually. So now I'm just going to blend out. Again, I'm using the 3 colors of pinks, and I'm just coming back with my lightest color again to do my final blend and just get a good pink saturated ear and cheeks. Her little ruddy cheeks remind me of my brother when he was little. It didn't matter what the temperature was outside. His cheeks were always the ruddiest red. It was so adorable. And I just think I carry that on into my coloring with my images, because I always make these big rosy red ruddy cheeks. I just think it's cute. And we're all about the cute. And all about making people happy. Now for her little nose, I'm coming in with a little bit of a different pink for her nose. And I'm going to add some just very light little shadow to the daisy. I'm not going to be fully coloring that daisy either, so I wanted to just kind of tie that pink in and bring it into the flower. So for my centers, I'm just going to use some yellows. And I'm going to do that on her dress as well. They're going to be little white daisies on her dress. It gives good contrast when you have light against dark. You want to be mindful of that. And I'm going to bring some pink back in to the center of the daisies just to make it pop. So it just ties everything together when you can add that color in a few more places. I'm getting a little closer here for you. Now when you have to color really tiny areas, I'm kind of heavy-handed, so I have to be really careful. So a lot of times I'm just going to dabble or dot in the very tiny areas. It helps to not go out of the lines or go out of the lines too much. But even if I do, it's really easy to clean up later. You can use the colorless blender and the alcohol inks, or a lot of times I'm going to add some highlights with a gel pen. So you can also clean up your image that way too if you need to. So here I'm adding my lightest violet purple color. I'm carrying it on to her dress and her little bow to coordinate her little outfit. And again, just laying in base color, and then I'm going to add a little bit of shadow, not too much. These are pretty dark colors, but they work really well with the ink blended background. Oh, I think I usually pick my colors first. Of course, always my image, but then I'll think about my colors, and then I'll decide my background. Unless I'm playing with pattern paper, and then it would probably be the opposite. I would just think, what can I make with this paper? But with this, I knew I was going to do some ink blending. I knew I wanted to use that embossing folder. That's so beautiful and perfect for a garden scene. It's perfect for a lot of scenes, but it's really fun for this garden scene. So now I'm going to just blend out a little bit more of the shadows that I put in there. Not too much. You don't have to be perfect. Sometimes it's really fun to have something that is not exactly perfect. It just adds texture and interest to your image. Okay, I can't forget her little mouth. Someone once said, "Is that a tooth hanging from her mouth?" And no, not a tooth, but just her little happy mouth open. Okay, now let's work on the bench. For the bench, I'm also going to have it white. It's going to be like little white birch bench. And I'm just going to add the shadows. There's no, don't have any kind of scientific reasoning for my shadows other than what's underneath and what's on the outside. If you wanted to get really detailed into it, you would pick your sun point and put your shadows in from there. But here I'm just putting shadows on what would be underneath the branches, what's on top. I'm trying to follow the lines. And again, little short flicks. You don't spend a lot of time on it, as you can see. I'm just hinting to the shadows, just hinting to the color. It doesn't have to be intimidating. It just has to be enjoyable. If you're having fun, that's, all that matters, because it's going to show through your work. And when you go to give it to someone, they're going to know you made this with love and you had a really good time doing it. So a little bit more shadow. Can't forget the seat. You won't see a lot of this anyway when we assemble the card, but still I'm going to add a little bit of details to the end. And that's basically it. I mean, I'll come in with a little bit darker and do the same thing I did on the mouse, just kind of bring out some of those shadows very lightly, very subtly. And as you can see, it just starts to get life, It starts to take shape. And it's just a little detail sometimes that count. Like I said, you won't see a lot of this, but it's going to make a difference at the end. Okay, when I come in with a really dark color, I'm very, very selective as to where I'm putting this, because again, I don't like my images very dark. But I definitely appreciate anyone who has a different style. It's just not my style. You have to find your own style. Whatever works for you, whatever you feel comfortable doing. It doesn't have anything to do with your skill level. It's really just a matter of preference. I've been coloring and painting and illustrating and drawing for well over 30 plus years. And I just developed a style. I know you will too, or maybe you already have. Here's just a few little added fun. You don't have to do this. I just get a little ridiculous sometimes and I like to add little details. It's just part of the fact that I just love to color. I'll just stare at something and keep on working on it. Okay, so now it's time to do some die cutting. I'm going to use Gina K's Masking Magic because it won't harm the images and it comes up really easy. It's kind of got like a little plasticky feel. It's very pliable. I love it. It's really good. Okay, back again through the intercut, and I have to remember to change your settings from embossing to die cutting because I've made that mistake a few times. Okay, so now I did a bunch of die cutting off camera, so now I'm going to just lay out all my images, all my elements, and I'm going to start to assemble my card. I'll use the tape runner. Gina K's tape runner is great because it gives you grace. You can pick it up a couple times before it actually will stick in. Won't let you pick it up anymore, but yeah, this is great. So I want to get the placement of my little mouse on the bench because I have to leave room for my sentiment and the little cobblestones that I made. Here I am creating the little scene. Like I said, I love creating little scenes because it gives interest to the cards. It's probably why sometimes I overdo on my cards, but I'm trying to work on doing some more simple cards. But these are fun for me. I create little stories in my head while I'm doing them. Like she's sitting out there in the garden taking a break from a long day of maybe some barky dogs. Okay, so now I'm going to add some foam adhesive to give it some dimension. I want it raised above my embossed background. And I'm going to fight with the foam adhesive. Before I took it off the bench, I kind of eyeballed where I had it placed before. I used the little leaves as kind of a guide. So now I'm able to put it back on basically in the same place. I'm going to do the same for my little mouse. A little foam adhesive. And what I almost forgot when I put it on is that she's got foam adhesive sitting on foam adhesive. So I'm going to have to add some extra foam adhesive to the back of her ears so she's got more stability up against the card. But I don't want to place her too high and I don't want to place her too low on the bench. You want her to make it look natural, like she's really sitting on that little bench. So here's some extra foam that I had to put behind her ears. And now she's got a little better stability in case we're sticking this through the mail. Okay, and I'm just going to glue down the cobblestone because they don't really need to be popped up. They're kind of set in the background and underneath the bench, so I don't want them popping up. So I'm just going to use some glue and arrange them to make it look like a little walking path, like she just walked up to her little bench and sat down with her little daisy. I think the only thing she's missing here is her cup of coffee or whatever it is she might like to drink. For me, it's coffee. And so I've got this love-hate relationship with these tweezers. They didn't give me too much trouble with my cobblestones, but you're about to see me fight with them a little bit. So if you don't want to, look away. It's like, I need the tweezers. They need me to work, but we don't work that well together. So here I'm going to place this pretty little branch right behind the little bench a little bit, as if it's kind of a little vine coming through. All right, forget the tweezers. Here comes the fingers. So I'm offsetting that a little bit. I definitely have a problem with being symmetrical, but you don't want to be too symmetrical that it looks unnatural. So I'm adding a few little blossoms here and there. They also have foam adhesive, by the way, just so that they are popped up because they're in front of the bench. A little more greenery. And my little garden is starting to take shape. Okay, now for my sentiment. I'm going to put it in the upper corner. Just gluing that down. The good thing about glue is that also gives you grace. Okay, so here I am coming back in. I want to add a little bit of dimension to my cobblestones. So I'm going to add a little bit of marker to add some shadow, but I don't want to do too much because this marker will definitely pull off the ink. So I'm just lightly kind of scribbling around, when you scribble you kind of give some texture. So I'm just kind of dotting around, scribbling around. just to highlight the edges of the cobblestone. I'm going to come back in and slightly blend it, but I want to be really careful because I don't want it to overshadow the cobblestone. Okay, and then I'm coming back in and I'm going to just add a little interest to my blossoms by putting some little veins in. I have to be careful because I definitely get a little heavy-handed. There's one that escapes me right there. And that just brings those little blossoms to life. Now I'm going to put the centers in. I'm using these really cute little gems. I'm pretty sure they come from Simon Says Stamp. But they're all different colors, and when the light hits them, it's just so pretty. So I'm picking the lightest ones and I'm putting in the center of the blossoms. And there it is. There's my card. It's super fun. I enjoyed making it. I added some white gel pen at the end just to add some highlights. Okay, so here's the other card that I illustrated. This is on regular marker paper. This is on regular cardstock, and you can see that the blend isn't as smooth, but still equally beautiful. Like, I love the hair wisps on that one. You just have to be really careful because regular cardstock will drink up the alcohol and you can get some smearing. So I hope you enjoyed this card today. I hope you learned something, and if you did, I would really appreciate you subscribing, giving me a like, and let me know if you want to see other kinds of videos. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.